Good afternoon. It's Susan at Crow Quilt Tarot. I am going to have a little ramble video of my own, and it is in response to some conversations that I've sort of jumped into on Facebook and on YouTube in the readers groups. About a week ago, on the Hermit's Cave Facebook group, a question was posed to everyone about happiness. What makes you happy? What does happiness mean to you? And I responded in the comments that I'm not really interested in happiness. I'm interested in peace. And what I meant by that was that happiness to me is an emotional state that comes and goes like the weather, as is loneliness. And loneliness has been playing a major role in the conversations recently in these communities, this tarot community that I feel privileged to belong to, because the holidays are coming up and everyone seems to feel intensified loneliness during the holidays. And I do too. I do get lonely. I have bouts of terrible loneliness. And so I wanted to just talk about it a little bit and talk about how the tarot can help us when we're dealing with these situations. To me, loneliness, happiness, frustration, anger, any number of emotional states that come and go like the weather are circumstantial. They're attached to our physicality. And ultimately what we want to do is get back to a state of peace. And that's easier oftentimes said than done, especially when we're triggered during the holidays by intense situations. And I think the tarot can help us. And I haven't been making many videos recently. I'd like to say thank you, Simon, who made a comment yesterday in a live chat that he misses my videos. And I thought, well, why have I been making videos? And it's because I really can't hold myself to my standards yet. Technologically, I can't do what I want to be able to do. It's sort of like learning how to paint and not being able to get the image you have in your head to look like that on the canvas. And the other thing is that I don't want to come on and make videos unless they are about the tarot and very specifically about how the tarot can serve us. And I have said many times, I believe so strongly that the tarot has a great gift to offer all of us because it is handy. It is literally at hand most of the time. Many people are going through a lot of hardship during these holiday seasons. I know one in our group specifically has recently lost her home through a tragic circumstance, and I want everybody to have access to help and to have access to tarot cards. And I have found that they're very easy to get and they're very inexpensive. And so I want to encourage you, if you're watching this video and you're looking at tarot cards, they can be thousands of dollars if you're a collector. They can be hundreds of dollars sometimes if they're new or if they're out of print, but they don't have to cost anything. I have found that on many designers and artists' websites, they will let you download a PDF with their cards, the cards that they've drawn and that they've designed. They'll give you the PDF for free. You can download the designs for free. And so if you can do it from your phone or your computer to a printer, and if you don't have a printer, you can go to a printing station like Staples or your local printer and ask them to do it. They can download the PDF and they can print them out for you. And if you haven't got the money for nice card stock and beautiful color renditions of those cards, then have them printed out on cheap paper in black and white and take them home and color them and glue things to them and just get creative with them and make them your own. The tarot is easily accessible. Of course, there are apps that'll pick a card for you. They're just easily accessible. And that does not diminish their value in any way if you know how to use them. And so that's what I would like to talk about just a little bit here briefly. I don't collect cards. I've had dozens and dozens of decks over the years, and I didn't know collecting them was a thing. I didn't know that, like first edition books or out of print books, they were going to go up in value. And I always found the ones that I liked, I used all the time, and the ones that I didn't sat on the shelf until I gave them away or got rid of them. And so I have maybe a dozen or 15 decks now that I've collected that I really like and I use at different times and enjoy. But if I find I'm not using a deck, I give it away. I have recently ordered a couple of decks that have not arrived yet, and I want to share a couple books and the deck I am working with. I also didn't know doing this in-depth thing for like a month or a year where you study a particular deck or series of decks. I didn't know anything about it. And pardon me for being so unimaginative, but I was doing it without realizing it was a thing or calling it an in-depth study. I just get a deck and I dive into it and I'm just obsessed. I dream about it. I just fall in love with it and develop a relationship, a personal relationship with it and get to know it. I sort of can't help it. So recently I read a couple of really good books. I read WTF is Tarot, and I highly recommend it. And I ordered the deck that she uses for the illustrations in this book, and it hasn't arrived yet, so I will eventually work with that a little bit and do a little walkthrough with that. Just a few days ago, I got a new book off Amazon because I watched Tom Benjamin. I watched a live broadcast he did, a conversation that I took part in, and then also he mentioned this, and so I went and ordered it. It's a workbook. It's actually an instruction book and a workbook, and I like that aspect of it. It's really interesting. Highly recommend it. Tarot on Earth. But the other thing I want to mention about Amazon is that oftentimes I'll buy a deck of cards. I'm going to show you these. I bought these on Amazon, and I think I don't remember if I paid $6, $8, something like that for them. And that's because I bought them used, and they actually weren't used. They were still wrapped in the cellophane. It said in the description they were damaged, and the only thing I can think of is that they're talking about that little nick in the box right there. So shop smart. Get yourself some cards, and if you find you're not using them or you have cards that you don't necessarily really relate to or really like, then get a different deck because there are thousands available. I recently got a deck that I am absolutely head over heels in love with. It's called the Emily Dickinson Tarot. Of course, Emily Dickinson has been one of my favorite poets since I was in high school. It came without a bag or any little white book or anything. I put it in, I want to show off one of the bags that my friend Joan made because it's so pretty and it is for sale. Contact me through my website or my YouTube channel or Facebook page, Crow Quill Tarot. And I put the Emily Dickinson Tarot deck inside of that because I'm carrying around with me all the time because I'm working on it. I'm working with it constantly. And the other deck that I got is an oracle deck, the Literary Witches Oracle. And so many of you have probably seen walkthroughs of these two decks recently. And I probably will not do. I did a quick little walkthrough, but of the Emily Dickinson like the day after I got it because I was so excited. But I'm probably not going to do a proper walkthrough of either one of those. What I am going to do is do some videos where I am working with them, where I will actually lay them out in a spread. For now, I'm just going to draw us a couple of cards. I'm going to link to a couple of walkthrough videos in the description box underneath. And I'm going to ask the cards something very specific. How can you help me deal with my loneliness and the sadness and all of the other nesses that I experience during the holidays? How do I get myself, my heart and my mind, my spirit and my body back to a state of peace and calmness? And I'm literally just going to shuffle. And I drew the Four of Wands from the deck, which is interesting. In the Emily Dickinson Tarot, what she says here is, or what the artist depicted, saying nothing sometimes says the most. What can I say about that? What do you have for us in this message, Tarot? Well, we know that the Four of Wands is always about finding a place of balance. To me, it represents home. It means I can come back to my sanctuary. I can come back to my solitude and reconnect with myself. And I talk oftentimes about developing resources that we can depend on. Not all of us have family and friends that we can depend on as a support group, but we have resources nonetheless. And there are a couple of sources I want to share with you for that. One is a process I've worked with for probably 20 years. Ever since the book was published, I heard about it and bought the book and read it. The author is Michelle Smallwright. She wrote a book called Behaving as If the God in All Life Matters. And this was another book she wrote, working with the Paralandra or earth deities, much like the Findhorn community after her experiences there. She wrote a book about those experiences in which she developed a source, literally a support system of disembodied or invisible light workers. And they explained to her how to go about doing this, and that's what she wrote about. It's called the White Brotherhood Medical Assistance Program, or MAP. So the MAP program. I don't have my copy. I just mailed it to someone. Once again, I'll go to Amazon and I'll buy the copies used. They're around $5. It's been out of print for a long time. It is paperback, little paperback, easy to read. The White Brotherhood Medical Assistance Program. In it, she talks about developing a team. She could sense them. She could hear them. She says, ask them, go into meditation and ask them, what are their names? What's the name of your support group? So that when you feel like you need some support and there is no one around you can count on, literally call them in. I literally say the name of my MAP team and I call them. If it's an emergency situation, 911, I need my MAP team. If I'm just feeling lousy psychologically or physically, I would like to open a MAP session. I would like to ask for assistance, please. From the White Brotherhood Medical Assistance Program, team known as, and I give my team's name. And yes, I heard it in meditation. It's just my imagination. That's the most important key here. This is all our imagination. It's all in our head. Let them call you crazy. Albert Einstein said a couple of important things. He said magic is science that has not been proven yet. Of course, that's coming true. He also said knowledge is nothing and imagination is everything. That's because he was having experiences of an expanded consciousness or perception beyond his own 5 physical senses, and he chose to believe that they were real. And they are real, and they're only in your imagination. That doesn't make them any less real. Medical science is now able to map the brain and show where the neurons are firing and how the synapses are relating to one another, and guess what it's proving? Imagination and intuition are exactly the same thing. The way in which we intuit what the cards are telling us, what's the message, what has it got for us, what's the gift here, is to imagine. And the minute that you have engaged your imagination, you have expanded your consciousness and you have tapped into quantum possibilities. And all of a sudden, whether you realize it or not in the moment, things are changing. So now I'm going to draw from the Literary Witch's Oracle. Tell me. Oh, interesting. I drew Toni Morrison, Power. I'm glad I didn't draw an author that I'm not familiar with, because I would have had to go to the book. But of course, I've read everything by Toni Morrison. And she's readily available at your local library. I always say Toni Morrison is the author I hate and I can't put down. By far the most extraordinary writer. Compelling, and her stories are so very heartbreaking and difficult to read because, of course, they're about American slavery. And they're redemptive. And what I mean by that is that it's not just about having a fairy tale happy ending. It's not about getting the happiness. It's about gleaning the strength, the fortitude, the resilience of finding information that blows your mind or expands your consciousness when you realize that these surreal imaginations absolutely impact our state of being. And let us be aware of infinite potential and possibility. I love Toni Morrison for that reason. Do read her. Do be inspired. And do be inspired to read some Emily Dickinson. Read about these talented, strong, intelligent, resourceful women, and notice the qualities you have in common with them. And let's all have a more peaceful, stronger holiday because of it. Thank you.